And James Grande.
What is going on, FANation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Game Day Playbook Preview Show. We got 10 games on the main slate. We got the Emirates NBA Tournament Cup Day 2 upon us here. Some massive injury news throughout the day today. Thankfully, we got it before roster lock. Nikola Jokic out for tonight for the Denver Nuggets in their matchup against the New Orleans Pelicans, which means we have some value on the board here tonight that 50% of the field is seemingly finding their way to. Whether that is good or bad, we'll discuss. There's also plenty of other spots for us to go over for tonight, some fun matchups. And of course, we appreciate you guys always tuning in with us here over on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube channel. As you guys come in, if you want to hit that like, that subscribe, that share button, it's a free way to support the work we do here over at Fantasy Alarm. Grande, my friend, how we doing, man?
We're doing. I think it's interesting that 6 of the top 8 projected roster players are from one team. I don't know how that's going to work, but we will see. Also, one of those that player that you mentioned, the field is a foregone conclusion that that person is going to start, despite not playing for the last week or two, and other players playing. So I don't know. It's an interesting slate that we'll possibly get more clarity on, but there's also a chance we go into 7 p.m. and we don't know who's officially starting for Denver. We don't know anything about the rotation. So it's definitely interesting to see how things are shaking out right now.
Yeah, again, let's get into it. We go position by position here. We appreciate you all tuning in once again here. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. Jeff P, always one of the first ones in the chat, throwing a comment in. Let's make some money. That's been the goal of the last couple of shows. We've had a lot of success doing so. Hopefully we can keep it going for all of you. If you have any FanDuel questions, though we're looking at the DraftKings slate, don't be shy. Throw those questions in there as well. We'll do our best to answer those and get you guys ready for your FanDuel, DraftKings, Underdog, Prize Pick, Sleeper, you name it. We got it covered for you here today. On the show this morning, we discussed top spend ups and ranking the order in which we wanted to get to. We used Jokic because at the time he was only questionable. He is now out. That puts Wemby as your top price overall play. SGA, Davis, LeBron, and Embiid up over $10,000. Got SGA at home against the Suns. You got Trae Young at 99. You got Booker, Harden, your 9K and above point guard tier. I mentioned to you on the show, I'd rather just play Trae Young. What are your thoughts now, given sort of how this slate's going to shape up?
I mean, like Trae is cheaper. It's a great spot. Koulibaly is good defensively, but we saw Trae blow up in one of the 2 matchups. I wouldn't say I have like a preference between SGA and Trae. I think SGA has obviously flashed a higher ceiling than Trae Young has this year. You also factor in, without Chet, 38% usage, 1.6 fantasy points per minute. Those are both numbers that are better than Trae Young. So I'm perfectly fine getting to SGA if you think that game is going to be competitive. No reason not to think it. OKC's not the healthiest team either. So I actually lean the other way. I'll take the lower owned SGA than Trae. I like both, but I do like SGA quite a bit.
Okay. Coach Kristen here. Liking Donovan Mitchell, Tyler Hero. I like them both. You got Donnie Mitch here at 8,200. You got Hero at 78. We'll get to them. Cade's $9,300 coming off again. Another monster matchup has Toronto. Brandon Ingram, that matchup probably gets at least a bit more competitive, I would think, without Nikola Jokic on the floor. He's $8,900. We got Brunson, 86. Mitchell, 82. Halliburton, 8K. If you're picking between the 8K group, what are we thinking here today?
That's including Cade?
Yeah, well, including Cade, yeah.
So 9. Cade would be the preferred option of that tier. His usage and stuff didn't really change all that much, like with or without Jaden Ivey. He's just the dude that's going to do it all for them, with Jaden Ivey without him. So Cade is the preferred target of that tier.
All right. Obviously, preferred target there. Do you like Donovan Mitchell in this spot? Obviously, he went nuclear in it last time. Halliburton, again, we talked about the pricing with him. Has had some big spots at 8K. Now he's, still same price against Miami. Would you find yourself, or are you okay with building some lineups around here?
Yeah, I mean, I love Donovan Mitchell. I figured we'd talk about him at shooting guard.
Sure.
But yeah, he's an elite play. He's even better play if there's no Evan Mobley, who was downgraded due to an illness. I mean, it could be a situation where you play Donovan Mitchell regardless, and suddenly Evan Mobley leaves halfway through the game if he suits up because he is ill. So, yeah, I like Donovan Mitchell quite a bit in all formats.
Okay, yeah, good spot for him there. Obviously, Jordan Poole, $7,400, coming off of a massive game, 42 actual against San Antonio, 59 fantasy points. Has this matchup against Atlanta. We saw him go for 46 fantasy points and 40 in back-to-back games. They do have Kyle Kuzma now involved in this spot here, but still one of the more exciting. A 240 total here. Are we getting to some Jordan Poole action today?
In tournaments, I mean, with Kuzma back and eventually getting to full run of Kuzma, I expect some of the usage to come down. But also, he's been good with Kuzma on the floor this year, as we saw in the beginning of the year. So I'm always down to get to some Jordan Poole in tournaments, especially he didn't play like this last year. He played like
Right.
this the second half of the year, and so yeah, I mean, he scored 42 actual in a game, and I don't think anyone even noticed because in that game Wemby had 50, and all people care about is Wemby. So I think Jordan Poole is definitely a solid tournament play at 7,400.
Yeah, agreed. The Prince wants to know our thoughts on SGA's 43.5 PRA. Obviously, again, he's kind of popping off. We went over it in points alone in that last game. It only came through with 39 PRA in 33 minutes, and that was a blowout. In a more competitive game, he probably sees another 6 minutes, and then maybe he gets to the 43.5. Gets Phoenix here. Would you be more inclined to go more or less than 43.5 PRA for SGA?
I mean, it's probably a number I'm comfortable with going over, but it might also be something I'm just staying away from
Sure.
because
It's definitely it's probably an on the nose spot. He would have to score 30 actual, which he certainly can do to really get over there. You'd want those 30 plus points. DePrince, I wrote an underdog article that's out over on Fantasy Alarm. You can check that out. I got 3 plays in there today that you can take a look at. And if you're over on underdog, they gave you a bonus boost today, for the Emirates Cup tournament, so you can take advantage of those offers. Value range or 6K range for point guard. Any favorites for today? We talked Dyson Daniels and all those steals. You got the Bulls guards here. Like, what are we thinking? Jamal Murray, 71 without Jokic against Pelicans.
yes, Jamal Murray. And I don't know, I'm not like necessarily worried about the struggles without Jokic this year or with Jokic this year, without rather. Dating back to the beginning of last season, 1.2 fantasy points per minute, high usage rate player. So I'm going to trust that larger sample than, I mean, they've barely played without Jokic this year. So nobody's had really an opportunity to have any type of production worth mentioning. Like Michael Porter Jr. is at 0.7 fantasy points per minute over a this year.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of last year, it's basically one like that, So yeah, I think Jamal Murray is an elite play. Went back and added him into the playbook after the Jokic news was ruled. And like at the end of the day, it's a low total, but New Orleans is still the 29th ranked defense in basketball. They just are reeling. They don't have many good on ball defenders, and Murray should get to all his spots tonight offensively.
Yeah. I like it there as well. Got Giddy at 65. Brandon Boston's $6,400. CP3 against the Lakers at 63. Some people were playing Terry Rozier earlier today. He was getting a little bit of ownership love. What are our thoughts as we work our way down into the 5K range?
I'm happy for those people because I won't be one of them. Terry Rozier's been largely bad.
Yep.
And I'm going to avoid it, especially if there's ownership on him. Boston is fine in tournaments. I mean, he just didn't make shots the other day. There's also the case for Brandon Boston to get up to mid to high 30s minutes in a competitive game. I mean, he no reason to think the 35 to 38 minutes would go away if it's competitive. He's a double threat, as we saw. He had 10 rebounds last game. He had 10 assists the game prior. So definitely good with Brandon Boston. CP3 is someone that's interesting. We can never figure out when the Chris Paul night's going to be, but he's just settled into this 28 to 30 minute role. There's a really high ceiling when he scores, but when he scores is like anyone's guess because he's not really shooting. So if
Yeah.
he doesn't make the few shots that he's taking, well, then his floor is like bottoms out. So it's not necessarily a spot I'm getting to, but if you land on Chris Paul in a tournament, it's a good spot for the Spurs. The Lakers are a bottom five defense, and they play really fast. So I'd be okay with Chris Paul.
We have less than 1% expected ownership for Jared McCain coming off of just the nuclear performance, 34-10, 58.5 fantasy points against Cleveland. On the road against Orlando, Joel Embiid back, Paul George back without a minutes limit. But are we overlooking what might just be a really good basketball player
here? No. I don't think
so.
No. I think that there's like a case to be, a decent return, but this is the first time George hasn't been on a minutes restriction. We are assuming Embiid is going to get a slight ramp up, and it's also just a terrible spot. Like we had the opportunity to get McCain in a terrible spot against Cleveland, and he had the team to himself. Where he is, I understand, like he still had a 27% usage rate with Embiid and Paul George on the floor the other day. The minutes should still be fine. But we're talking about a guy that now has $1,000 price increase.
Mm-hmm.
I will gladly be in the 99%. And if he beats me, he beats me. But it's just like slow paced game, second rated defense in the NBA. I'll let other people, the low owned people, chase it. And if that's what beats me tonight, that's what beats me. But I'm okay with it.
Okay. Looking at some value then at the point guard position, is there any one name or two that you're looking to plug into your lineups tonight?
I think the Russell Westbrook stuff is interesting. People are very sold on. I think Denver does run a traditional center out there, but there's always the case that they don't, and they just go small and use Peyton Watson and Michael Porter, who are both.
It would be taller. The team to do it against, right? The Pelicans don't really have a true big out there. They have Messi, but
yeah, after him, it's Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and he's undersized in the front court too. So Westbrook's interesting. I don't love the ownership, but I do understand like when he is on the floor, there's no Jokic. You're essentially using Westbrook as Jokic today, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a role that he fits like a glove kind of. So I think Russell Westbrook at 52 is pretty interesting. If Evan Mobley were to sit out, Karis LeVert would be a guy that I'd be looking at. That is contingent to the Mobley news, because I think another scenario where, maybe they're going to start like Wade Okoro in that scenario, and LeVert's just going to play more than them in a super pace-up spot. So LeVert would be interesting. Davion is more interesting on FanDuel, where he's super cheap. You sent me his Yahoo price was min salary. That's
$10 min price on Yahoo. Yeah.
So like I think he profiles better FanDuel, Yahoo than he does DraftKings. So like that would be a spot I would get to. I think Ben Simmons is a little bit interesting. $4,800. Nick Claxton was questionable. Another guy that's questionable into like a weak injury. Like, why don't we know these things? We have to know these things ahead of time. I think
it's just like MRIs, right? They just like all of a sudden MRI comes back. It's like, he's out a week.
Yeah. So the one game Claxton missed, he missed the Memphis game. Simmons started at center. Wasn't great, but he's been a fantasy point per minute, exactly on the head, fantasy point per minute guy without Claxton this year. There's been 27-minute ceiling, basically between 24 and 27. Obviously, he only played 22 in New Orleans, and maybe his best game of the year. But I do think that there is like high 20s minute upside for Simmons, given the missing Claxton
Yeah.
piece, given they don't seem comfortable extending Noah Clowney like all too much at this point. So I do think that there's some merit to getting to some Ben Simmons at 4,800. Chris Dunn is 4,400. Chris Dunn's been great when he's been extended any amounts of run this year.
Yep.
Entered the starting lineup, and I think it's interesting again. He was 1% the other day, 32 fantasy points in 31 minutes. He's 5% projected again. Nobody's playing Chris Dunn again starting. He's very good in peripheral stat land. He's decent scoring. Obviously, he makes his hay on the defensive end, but
Yeah.
if Chris Dunn's going to start and play 30 minutes again, then I'm just going to play low on Chris Dunn and I'm going to live with the results.
I agree with you. Some similar value in terms of ownership tonight for Jalen Noel and Cason Wallace. They're sitting around 10 to 12%. Wallace obviously started. He's 3,800. Noel, coming off the bench with that offensive upside for them. Do you have a lean towards one or the other?
I wrote Cason Wallace up today, so the lean would be there. There's obviously a low floor with Cason Wallace. I mean, he had a 9%. He started last game and had a 9% usage rate. This is, that is
single digits is pretty bad.
In the same game, Jalen Noel had a 24% usage rate.
Yeah.
But Jalen Noel also basically until the fourth, I mean, he had like decent run, but people expected him to start. He didn't start. And then he closed the game with, in garbage time, 5 minutes. So Jalen Noel was pacing for 20 minutes, not 25, got 25. So if people are playing Jalen Noel for 25 minutes, that might not be the case. Trey Murphy only played 25. Boston only played 31. They both checked out with 5 minutes to go. Or was it 5 minutes? 3 minutes. They lost 3 minutes of time. So I'm not convinced Jalen Noel. I think something that would be a nice pivot off of both is Anthony Black. He's been really good. Obviously, he benefited from the steals. The dude is just super good peripherally. And regardless of scenario, the minutes have just been what they've been, where we don't know what Jalen Noel's minutes look exactly like when it's a competitive game. But Anthony Black, when he's playing well, is playing mid to high 20s. When he's not, 22. But he's getting you 20 fantasy points plus a night. There's steal upside. He took 8 threes in a game randomly the other day. So I think if you wanted to just split the difference on ownership between Black and or between Wallace and Noel and play someone different, it's Anthony Black, who I think has as high a ceiling as the other two.
At shooting guard, again, a lot of these guys we touched on, you mentioned you want to talk Donovan Mitchell more at shooting guard. In relation to price, you have Mitchell and Hero both here. Booker obviously by himself, no Beal. Got Ingram, as we talked about, at 89. We've been riding a lot of Tyler Hero. We haven't played much Donovan Mitchell, but we had that question. So we're kind of going back to it. If you're picking one of Hero or Mitchell, which one are you going with?
I mean, I don't want to necessarily pick one. I want to play both.
Okay.
Can I answer both?
You can.
I guess if I had to pick, I would probably if Mobley played, I would lean Hero. If Mobley were to sit, I'd have a hard time sitting Donovan Mitchell, or I have a hard time not getting Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, this is why I'm picking both, because it's such good spots for both, right? Donovan Mitchell is up against the top team in pace in the NBA. Now, to Cleveland's credit, they're 10th. Kenny Atkinson in Cleveland, they're playing fast. They're also the number 1 rated offense in basketball right now. So I love Mitchell. If there's no Mobley, that would make me like him more. We know for a fact, no Jimmy Butler. And Tyler Hero has been a dog without Jimmy, 30% usage rate, leads the team in fantasy points per minute at 1.4. Huge pace-up spot for Miami. So if teams are status quo and Mobley plays, I'd lean Hero. If Mobley sits, I'd lean Mitchell. I'd also, if you're playing multiple lineups, have them in both. So I love them both. Truthfully, it's a hard tier to pick one or the other. And salute to Devin Booker, another guy that I'd rather play on FanDuel, 8,800 on FanDuel. we know if that game stays competitive, Devin Booker's having a good game.
Yeah, agreed with you there. Mid-tier options for us. We work our way down. You get Norm at 71, Levine $6,800. You can play Jamal Murray here if you wanted to as well. Grady Dick was someone that I'm pretty high on today, and Ben Matherin both right next to each other at 63 and 62.
Yeah, like Levine a lot. Still leads the team in usage rate. Past the adductor, obviously. He's been super good scoring the basketball. And that's kind of been his thing this year when healthy, right? He's just been healthy and he's scoring at an elite clip. Basically, every game he's taken a bunch of shots in, he shot the ball extremely well and has scored the ball extremely well, shooting 54% from the floor this year. And again, leads the team in usage. Cleveland is not playing slow by any means. There's a reason why I think the books this game has been bet up so much.
Yeah.
It's up to 238.5. You know, that is not what it opened at. It has been bet up a lot because we just saw it. There was a lot of points scored. Both teams top 10 in pace. So I like Levine a lot. The Bulls are not going to slow down. They're going to keep getting out and scoring a lot, giving up a lot of points as well, but scoring a lot for sure. And then the two names you mentioned for sure. I'll let you talk more about Grady Dick, but Ben Matherin, dude, he is averaging 15, just under 15 potential rebounds per game since Boston, which is a 7-game stretch. Basically, when Neesmith and Neesmith got hurt, and basically when Nembhard was diagnosed with knee tendonitis.
Yeah,
he has been consistently, I would say, their best rebounder, which is him and Siakam and Turner's okay, but for a center, I mean, he has been a monster on the glass, and obviously he's an elite scorer. He's a high usage player. It's just been everything we've wanted from Matherin when extended. 25.7% usage rate without Nembhard and Neesmith. That leads the team. And this is a team that has Halliburton, went out and traded for Siakam. Without those two players, Ben Matherin leads them in usage. So shooting guard, small forward. The Miami matchup is not scary for me. They don't have anyone that they're putting on the ball necessarily without Jimmy. So yeah, give me Matherin, but I'll let you talk about Grady Dick.
Yeah, Grady Dick for me, it's more so just the fact that there's no Scotty Barnes. 6 games this year without those two in the lineup. Grady Dick is averaging almost 25 points per game. He's had 3 games of at least 30 actual points scored with those guys out of the lineup. He had just one bad game, was right here. It's the only game in that stretch without Barnes and Quickly that he didn't score at least 22 actual. Quickly played in these 2 games, didn't play in this one. Hey, what do you know? 32 points. So the guy's in an absolute bucket, shooting about 45% from the field, shooting close to 35% from 3. We're seeing him give you a couple of assists, a couple of rebounds, throws in a steal there, and he's getting to the free throw line. So a guy that is giving you 40 plus fantasy points, 35, pretty consistently here. There's a lot to like when it comes to what we could be seeing out of Grady Dick tonight. And like you mentioned, just kind of playing them both, right?
That was almost a slippery slope you went down, but you caught
well, I tried not to. Amen Thompson also here and a beast, $5,600.
He has been a beast, man. I mean, they just obviously he started the Washington game, but they were fully healthy in the Clippers game, and he just played. So it's a case of what you believe. If you believe that Udoka is just going to continue to ride the hot hand with Thompson over Jabari Smith and over Dylan Brooks, and they're going to go smaller, Şengün only playing 30 minutes. I mean, there's a chance Thompson continues to just play 30 minutes, and if he's getting 30 minutes a night, regardless of whether he's starting or not, he should be 6K plus easy.
Sure. Where are you with Christian Braun tonight?
Christian Braun, but he works so good with Jokic, and he is the one nugget that's getting no ownership at all. None. He is one of 7 nuggets, or there's 7 nuggets basically getting ownership, and he's not. And I think there's a lot of people worried that it does have to do with the Jokic factor, how he works so well off Jokic. He's been really consistent. The 3-point shot has been much improved. He's shooting 50% from three. It's good. It's solid. Nothing that like excites me. But if you land on Christian Brown, then it's perfectly fine.
You're feeling pretty good about it. Okay. Any other values then? Shooting guard. We got Beasley down here. Levert you mentioned already. Davion's down here. What are your thoughts as we work our way in?
Yeah, I mean, I expect Beasley to start regardless of Jaden Ivey's return. Jaden Ivey went through shoot around, so usually that's a good sign for someone to play. Not always, but it is a good sign. No Tim Hardaway, no Fontecchio, so Beasley should be your starting small forward. Ivy was there in the Miami game where Beasley still took 17 shots off the bench, and Malik Beasley's been really good scoring, 15 plus actual points in four straight games. So I'd be okay getting there. The price is even better over on FanDuel. Good with Lou Dort if that's like last piece in. He's going to play a bunch of minutes, and he's been way improved offensively. We talked to Chris Dunn. Isaiah Joe, probably a little too expensive. I was looking at what Brooklyn did last time they didn't have Claxton, and Zaire Williams was extended as well as Jalen Wilson. Both those guys are like fine complementary pieces, but like, do we need to go there in a 10-game slate? The one thing I would say is if Rui Hachimura is ruled out, watch out for Dalton Connect in the starting lineup. That would be my guess, because I think we're just beyond the D'Angelo Russell starting lineup. Maybe they go back to that and they just move LeBron to the 4, and that's easy. And then obviously if D'Lo's starting, that there's more consideration there for him.
Sure.
But Connect coming off a 7 for 8, 5 for 5 from 3, where he played 31 minutes. If there's no Rui, they could just ride the hot hand with Connect and hope that lightning strikes twice. So just keep an eye out for that. What do you think of Julian Strawther getting all the ownership that he's getting?
I mean, we've talked a lot about Julian Strawther this year, right? Like, we know he can be a bucket. He hasn't even really shot the ball well when given the minutes, but he has produced. He's gotten some steals, gotten some blocks. I think for $3,500 in a tournament, I think he makes sense, especially more so on DraftKings where you get the 3-point bonus. You have to be encouraged, though, right? 26, 27, 24, and 23 minutes, those 4 games there. So they're willing to put him on the floor.
Him and Westbrook, that's like their bench rotation.
Yeah.
Right? They're just not, nobody else is playing. And Jai's been playing as the backup center, but very sparingly. So, yeah, I mean, I don't mind getting to Strawther at 35. I was a little surprised to see the ownership the way it is, but, when your whole offense revolves around one player and that player goes out, there's a lot of opportunity for everyone else.
Agreed. Small forward, got LeBron James, 3 straight triple doubles. Got Franz Wagner, $8,800. Paul George, RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett has like a 34% usage rate or something like that without Barnes and Quickly, but he hasn't really been producing lately. But the usage rate's there. How would you go about? Obviously, LeBron's in a tier of his own, but thoughts here spending up at small forward?
I think that it's very interesting, John, because you and I had a discussion last night on the preview show that basically said Jokic was a top play. And then I don't know if you felt this way, but I felt like we settled on LeBron being the second best play.
Yeah.
And nobody's playing him. And I'm willing to bet on a low on LeBron if we're going to continuously get the guy that is being asked to rebound the way he has, run point guard with D'Angelo Russell coming off the bench the way he has, and 2 35-plus point games in his last 4. Still 10-2. I mean, he's gone for 59-plus in 4 straight. He's gone for 52-plus in 6 straight. To me, I am really high on a low on LeBron James tonight. That game is fun.
It's just a 3.5-point spread, too, so it's not like
228 implied points.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of implied points. So you get the double-double bonus. You get the triple-double bonus on DraftKings. I'm missing something, in my opinion, that only 9% of the field wants to get to LeBron because Jokic was getting a ton of ownership this morning.
Yeah.
And it didn't really disperse to any like the
One big
highest
guy.
rostered player is Trae Young. That's the only player over 9K that's getting double-digit ownership, really. So, if you're telling me that these stars are not going to be owned at all, at least on DraftKings, then yeah, I think LeBron is an elite play for the production that he's giving us. Franz is good. Obviously, has a super high usage rate. Even on a night where he doesn't shoot the ball well, 24 shots, 37 minutes, 47 fantasy points. So Franz Wagner, great play.
Yeah, the only hesitation I have in that game is the 208 total, but that's about it, right? Like,
right.
and we saw him have, obviously a big performance in a game that was 184. So, I've kind of like scoured the internet today, try to get some see where maybe the field is looking to go and opinions on players, trying to get a little edge in tournaments. And people want to kind of just straight out avoid this game, but someone's still got to score points for them to get to 208. So
And he didn't even shoot well in that game. He shot terribly, but like volume is king. No, I mean he is just taking all the shots, and he is a good passer too. And you're right about that game. The one thing I'll say, Paul George is $7,400 on FanDuel.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a great spot to play Paul George.
Sure.
I'm probably not going to get there on DK, but I would be highly intrigued with how good Paul George is at that price, 7,400. And like he's super good both ends, like a lot of steals. So and then Barrett, you mentioned there's obviously a high ceiling. We saw it. He went for back-to-back 50 burgers. Sands Barnes. Both those guys are out. 2 of the last 3 games, he's only had to play 30 minutes. There's been, obviously blowout in the Milwaukee game where he just didn't finish the game. So I'd be okay going back to RJ Barrett. It's not really like I'm not really concerned with the last game. If you're telling me a player has a 34% usage rate, that player has the ball all the time. Their opportunity to score fantasy points is more likely than a lot of other people at his price tag. So
yeah, I just need him to start making shots. 1 for 5, 1 for 7, 1 for 3, 1 for 5, 2 for 11. 3-point shots have never really been his game, but he needs to start hitting a few more there. Small forward, you have Josh Hart here to let us down last time out. Gets a matchup against Brooklyn. Levine, we talked about a shooting guard. Cam Thomas, Michael Porter, a lot of retreads when it comes to this mid tier. OG Anunoby, $5,900. I don't mind getting there.
Yeah, all the Knicks are what they are. They all play big minutes, and they'll all have monster usage upticks and monster ownership upticks if Towns ends up sitting. So there's a lot to like about the Knicks just as a baseline because they play the minutes that they play. And then if Towns sits, then it's like open the floodgates. You can play whoever is in the starting lineup in whatever iteration you want because, Towns is a 30% usage guy, 1.5 fantasy points per minute this year. So Hart and OG are both perfectly fine. I'm willing to go back to the well with Josh Hart too.
Okay. Anybody else down here as we work our way into this range? Again, we talked to Eamon Thompson already. There's Royce O'Neal. Trey Murphy is down in this range. Got a returning DeAndre Hunter's at $5,200. Any thoughts?
I'm okay with a lot of those names. I'm staying away from Hunter. I know that game environment's great. We just don't know he hasn't played since.
Joel Embiid expected to see his minutes increased this evening.
I would say probably 30. I think when I was looking at it earlier, 30 minutes is a good baseline for Joel Embiid. In terms of the rest of this tier, it's really just like get to Tari Eason for me because I measure everyone else against Tari Eason. Like, all your minutes are the same. I'm just going to play the guy with like 1.3 fantasy points per minute. And that's kind of what Tari Eason's been. And he's been playing more than Jabari Smith. And he continues to just smash. And it's just such a slow progression for the price tag. So if we're going to continue to see mid to high 20s, no reason not to get to Eason if you're looking in this tier. And I said it to you on the show last night. and I'm sticking with this play, and it's going to be a super low in play. But Jaime Jaquez, I feel like, is kind of getting just forgotten about because the Heat were healthy to start the year, and he wasn't. And then he had the illness, and it took him out of like for a week. Then he comes back, he only plays 16 minutes. But then you get 25 minutes of Jaquez in the Detroit game where he closes, he looks great. And I think there's a chance that he starts. I told you this last night. Like the Kevin Love minutes are just pointless. Like they play him one shift in the first, they play him one shift in the third, and then he's done. Like just we can just move on from those minutes and give them to Jaquez now that we know he can play 26. And when you look at things without Jimmy Butler, 1.1 fantasy points per minute this year without Butler. He's played up to 33 minutes in a game this year. This was a very polished rookie right out of the gates last year. We're like, whoa, this kid is good. And he was right there with Hero a lot of last year, carrying them in the regular season when Butler was in and out of the lineup, or when Hero was out of the lineup. Before they had Terry Rozier, it was Jaime Jaquez. So wouldn't be surprised to see Jaquez in the starting lineup over Love. Even if he's not, wouldn't be surprised to see Jaquez at 30 minutes. And again, if you get 30 minutes of Jaquez in this game environment, which is another elite game environment, 228 total, Pacers 4.5-point favorites. I really like Jaquez in large field tournaments at super low ownership.
Yeah, I don't mind the pivot play for sure. Like you said, keeping it off. We are getting ownership on Murphy tonight. We'll see if that ever updates, but it's around 18% for him. So could have been well on his way to more minutes, like you mentioned yesterday, right? Got the fouls trouble early, and then the blowout late, and kind of capped him at 26. Maybe he's on his way to 30 there. You mentioned liking Ryan Dunn 4K. Obviously, has been starting. Had a better game against Sacramento than he did the day before that. We'll have to wait on the Detroit news. As of now, Jaden Ivey is a game time decision, but you have Holland at 39. You mentioned Connect already. Anybody else down here?
We talked Strother. No, there's nothing else.
Okay. Power forward. Talked LeBron already. Got Jalen Johnson, $8,900 as the one guy we haven't discussed basically in this tier yet. We've been just playing a whole bunch of Jalen Johnson this season. I don't really see a reason to stop that today.
No, I mean, this game has absolute blow up potential. 241.5 implied total, 9-point spread. He's been flirting with triple doubles with or without Trae Young this year. Mm-hmm. So, he has a immensely high ceiling. He also has flashed a pretty low floor at times, but he has dominated this matchup twice this year, 54 and 59 fantasy points. Yeah. Again, it doesn't always translate, but when you look at Washington's roster, he's just what he is. He is
they'll have Kuzma back for this one. They didn't have him for either of those games, but I don't know what that does.
In terms of athleticism, Kuzma's fine, but Jalen Johnson is just going to run people out of it, runs people out of a gym.
I think more so for me, it's on the defensive end. Kuzma's going to have the opportunity to shoot a lot more. So maybe some fouls there, but we're terrible at projecting fouls. So
it's hard. It's very hard to do.
Power forward in the mid-tier range against Siakam, got Kuzma, got Hart, Porter Jr. we talked about. Anybody new, I guess, that you want to highlight here?
I would have loved to at least entertain the Evan Mobley thing, but the illness scares me because he also had that for Wednesday's game, and he played through it. He played 35 minutes. So how much worse did it get that he's went from probable to in Wednesday, then from probable to questionable 2 days later? So how bad has this sickness that we just don't know anything about, how bad has it gotten? So I would have loved to Rui Hachimura now doubtful for the Los Angeles Lakers. So easy thoughts is it's either D'Lo or Dalton Connect. That would be my personal opinion on the starting lineup because they're already starting Reddish. So a little bit interesting there. I lost my train of thought. Oh, Mobley. Yeah, I mean, nothing else in this tier necessarily. I think Tobias is pretty interesting in like cash games and stuff. I was really intrigued by this. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been the guy that's made a big impact for Tobias Harris this year. 0.96 fantasy points per minute with Tim Hardaway on the floor, which is solid. You're about a 1 fantasy point per minute guy. With Hardaway off the floor, it's at 1.16. That's a big jump for Tim Hardaway being removed from the court. So I think Tobias is super safe. The minutes are super secure. The production is really consistent. We've gotten a couple 40 burgers in there. So it's a good matchup for Toby. The price is actually kind of going down too. It peaked at 64 and now it's back down to 62. So yeah, I think Toby makes a lot of sense in this tier.
Yeah, agreed. Let's see. You got the Washington guys, Sar, Keyshawn George, Tari Eason, as we kind of highlighted already, would be a guy we'd get to. Peyton Watson getting a lot of ownership as we start to hit the Denver guys. 40 minutes last time out. Scoring's been pretty consistent. It's not a high volume, but he's hitting the shots, which is key. Hitting his threes, which is nice. Getting the defensive stats here. You think he might, even in this matchup, be a center at times in this spot. So 4,600. Are you buying with the field with Peyton Watson?
I mean, I don't know what Denver's going to do ultimately, because like the field is sold, stamped that DeAndre Jordan is just definitively the number one option, right?
Yeah.
Michael Malone gave a quote today about Dario Saric. I know he's pissed, but his time is going to come. And DeAndre Jordan hasn't played. It's been Zeke Njai as the backup. So like that's all I'm saying. We don't know what Denver's going to do because 38 minutes a game goes to Nikola Jokic and we don't have to worry about it. So like we're panicking just thinking DeAndre Jordan is just the easy plug because we've seen it in years past and whatnot. But like they extended Njai as well. They now have like the capabilities of going small with Westbrook or going small with Strother and Peyton Watson being here. So we'll see. I do think Watson's fine. Another one that has really benefited from Nikola Jokic playing because every shot and 3-point volume is not like self-created. That is completely Jokic created. And you mentioned it. He's being super efficient. So he has to continue to be super efficient to continue to score 16 points or whatever. But he is very good defensively. He's a decent rebounder. There's obviously opportunities in that. So I'm not shying away from Peyton Watson 46, but I am erring a little bit on the side of caution, being like, hey, this isn't as a slam dunk as you think because Jokic provides so much for the ancillary pieces around like Jamal Murray and Jokic are like their two shot creators, or Aaron Gordon. But two of the three shot creators are not there in Gordon and, because MPJ doesn't do a lot shot creation. Peyton Watson doesn't either. So, I think Watson's fine. He's also one of the highest rostered players of the slate. So if you're not comfortable with that,
you got Towns as a game time decision, which we've been waiting sort of on his injury news all day today.
So was Brunson the other day. Yeah, so was Brunson the other day.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, both of them. Obviously, if Towns does not play, it changes the dynamic of the Knicks in their matchup against Brooklyn. We do like Towns tonight. We'll talk about center here in a minute. Pat Will, your guy. Playing minutes, being productive, 30-plus and 3 straight now. Maybe no Mobley to deal with.
Yeah, that's obviously nice if there's no Mobley. The minutes have been really the minutes and the efficiency scoring has been like he hasn't really even been that efficient, but double digit points in 4 straight. The rebounds have been pretty consistent. The minutes have been pretty consistent. He's a tournament play only. It's super hard to trust, but you're not going to find many players at this price tag that have 30-plus minute upside. So I'm indifferent about it. It's fine.
Yep, that's fine. Boucher is someone we played in tournaments. Could be a good spot for him against Detroit. De Silva's starting again. Isaac, we know we've talked Isaac a lot here, up over 20 minutes last game. Do you think we see that again out of him?
See, I don't know. One, we have to get through a game healthy. Did it in Indiana. One of the first times he's done it all year. First time we've seen him get 20 minutes, that's obviously progress.
Did he play over De Silva? Because De Silva only saw 21 minutes in that game. after playing 32, 32, 27, 23, and all of a sudden he plays 21 and Isaac plays 22.
He did play over De Silva, also closed as the small ball center over Goga, but that was like a minute span. You're not going to do that with Embiid on the floor. So, unless out of necessity, just based on foul trouble and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's a very fair point. Also, it was Anthony Black that played over De Silva. Anthony Black played the final 16 minutes of the game.
Okay.
He didn't really play over anybody necessarily.
Played with them?
Yeah, I mean, Suggs played 37, Franz played 37, KCP played 34. He just played more than Mo Wagner, who had been basically splitting time with Goga. Jet Howard played a few minutes. Cole Anthony barely played. So he just got more of the bench run than anything else. And then that final minute of small ball center. But if we've said this for years now, if he's under 4K and getting 20 minutes, well, he's a fantasy point per minute player. And, his ownership has fallen off a cliff. It was really high earlier. Then the Denver news hit, and then it was kind of lights out for Isaac. But yeah, I mean, if you saw crystal ball and you saw Jonathan Isaac playing 22 minutes tonight, then I would definitely have interest.
Agreed. Anybody else?
Maybe Noah Clowney if he were to start, but I'm not convinced he will. So
Devin Vassell will continue to play off the bench.
And he saw more minutes last time out, so that's at least a good sign.
Yep. Again, he could start cutting in and playing 30 off the bench soon. Would be a really good value if that ends up being the case. All right, center is where it gets fun because nobody is playing any of the top guys. they're all playing the value tonight. We had the question earlier. I wasn't ignoring you, Jordan. We're just waiting to get the center. AD and Wemby, would you play them together? And if you wouldn't play them together, which one would you pick?
Yes to the first one. I would play them together. That's fine.
You can play them together over on FanDuel, I believe. So
both have FanDuel or both have power forward.
On Yahoo, Towns is power forward only. That's his position.
Okay.
Playing center all year. But they got power forward only.
That makes total sense. If I had to pick, I would probably go Wembanyama, but I think they're both elite plays. I mean, Wemby just has the ceiling of all ceilings. If he's going to shoot this way consistently, then he is just going to have consistently high ceilings, right? He's just going to be a 60 fantasy point scorer consistently because there's nothing else he can't do. Even in the game, he had the 6 rebounds, but he had 3 blocks and a steal, and that's somewhat on the low side at times. So I lean Wemby over AD. Yes, I would play them both. And then to follow up to that, no, I would not play Joel Embiid, I don't think.
You still wouldn't play Embiid, even if you think he gets 30 minutes.
I don't know.
I get it. He was terrible. No doubt.
Even just looking, if you remove the stats, just watching him move, he did not look like he was moving well, which maybe that's just also coincided with him, just being rusty. He hasn't played since that, in a competitive setting since the Olympics, right? We could just chalk it up as that. I know he did this in 29 minutes. He averaged 40 and 10 in 29 minutes last year. I know, but it's his second game back off whatever is happening with the knee.
They felt comfortable enough to raise his minutes, though. That's where I'm like,
no, I know.
I think he's a tournament play, obviously, right?
You're playing 20 lineups. The field, what is the field getting to Joel?
I mean, I haven't checked to see if an update has since come through. My guess is it probably has been with that.
0.2% of Joel Embiid in large tournaments was.
Let me see if an update has come through before we lock that in here. Let's see.
Because I get it. 26 to 30 minutes. That's obviously like you get Joel and Embiid
Yeah,
30 minutes.
still nobody. Nobody's playing him.
I think that largely has to do with center being the number one spot now where people are going to go for value because everyone's now going to click on whoever starts for Denver.
Did we
Like
mention
if
Grayson Allen? Grayson Allen's now getting almost 40%.
we didn't, and that's my bad. Grayson Allen, I wrote him up in the playbook, didn't even mention him. So yeah,
Grayson Allen all the way down here at 3,700, I think.
he's 37. He went through shoot around this morning too.
Yeah, he's getting almost 40% right now. So,
which makes sense when you look at Phoenix just ruling Beal out. I mean, they might be without Nurkic as well. Obviously, no Durant. Like they're very shorthanded to begin with. So, yeah, it's on me.
No, but it's on both of us. I just couldn't remember if we had mentioned him or not. But good with the ownership update. I was like, oh, he's popping. So he was there the whole time. So, all right. Other centers, then obviously we have the top guys here. If Mobley remains questionable, is that most recent update? If Mobley's out, Jared Allen obviously makes a lot of sense. Jalen Williams, Şengün had a big game, even though he didn't play the fourth quarter there. We know what Towns has been capable of doing. We've been in love with Bam for a lot of this year. Like, center's been loaded all season long.
Not any different today. And I think that's like, other than the value being clearly on DeAndre Jordan here, I think that's largely why no one's playing Embiid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a loaded position. Towns just went for 70 and has 50 and plus and 4 or 5 and is still priced as if he's not been that guy. So, it's a knee contusion. If he plays, I know Ben Simmons is a good defender, but we're only going to see Simmons for X amount of time, and who cares? Towns has been good against everybody, good or bad defenders. So definitely in on Towns. Love Jalen Williams, 8,300. He presents a matchup nightmare for Phoenix, no matter who is on the floor guarding him. Şengün, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Love Bam today. Another, just why wouldn't we go to Bam spot? I mean, 44 minutes. That's 39 minutes in regulation for a third straight game from Bam. He's barely coming off the floor. He just hasn't been consistently making shots, right?
Yeah.
It's been Tyler Hero and friends, and Bam hasn't been the guy making shots. But if, in all the games where you've gotten good shooting performances out of Bam, where you're also getting volume attached to it, he's smashed. And even in a 5 for 21 or earlier this year, he's 50 fantasy points because he can do all the things on the court. The offense flows through him. So center is absolutely loaded. And salute to Jared Allen, you mentioned. If there's no Mobley, we'll actually see Jared Allen close a game because he hasn't closed a lot of games lately because they've just chose to go Mobley over Allen and go small. But they'll definitely have Allen guard and Vooch and play him.
Michael says thoughts on the late games. Obviously, FanDuel, we mentioned, we talk about it. So Sabonis is here at center. Sabonis going up against Minnesota. No DeMar DeRozan tonight. No Malik Monk tonight for the Kings. So I think obviously Keegan Murray, Sabonis, Fox, Horder, all interesting pieces for the Kings. Grizzlies Warriors on the other side of that matchup. Obviously, Steph Curry you can play. Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. looking pretty good probably in this spot tonight. Minnesota side, there's the usual Anthony Edwards, Naz Reid play probably where I would go in those games.
Yeah, I wrote up Fox and Porter for Minnesota or for Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox, 5% usage spike without DeRozan. 1.3 fantasy points per minute, 34% usage. Herter, 40 bomb in 2 of his last 3. Pretty good price on FanDuel. And, no Monk, no DeRozan. Minutes are as secure as Kevin Herter has probably ever felt since going to Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
I am terrified of Memphis. Jaren Jackson is fine, but they could be getting back Bane.
Yep.
They could be getting back Vince Williams. They could be getting back Brandon Clark tonight. And the way that Taylor Jenkins has run that rotation, it has been an absolute nightmare. And I'm not saying that Jaren Jackson is going to lose time, but there's a chance because he wants to. It feels like a community, like a town rec 5th and 6th grade team where everybody has to play a certain amount of time, and like that's not what's like. We're in the NBA, and obviously Bane takes away from Jaren Jackson, so 8K is fine, but I'm a little indifferent about it. I would prefer to, like, if I'm playing Memphis, a Pippen Aldama type scenario where as long as Marcus Smart's still coming off the bench, because they brought Smart off the bench, and then Golden State, yeah, Curry is still too cheap on FanDuel. We'll see who starts in favor of DeAnthony Melton. They've started Moody, they've started Hield, they've started Pajemski, so we'll see. But Andrew Wiggins is in a really good spot as well over there. So, yeah, those would be some of the FanDuel.
Agreed. Back over to the mid-tier center spot here. We gave you a 45-second FanDuel breakdown. We talked Jalen Duran last night. 5,900, great matchup for centers against Toronto. He played 36 minutes in that game, had 5 fouls as well. So, like, it wasn't like a foul trouble thing. They had, the overtime, but this dude put up some monster numbers last year. He's had some monster games this year. This is I like this price for him in tournaments tonight.
I like the price in tournaments for sure. I would say the only thing working against him, and you'll get him in really low owned in tournaments, as you said, is that people are going to look at it and be like, well, I could play this, or I could just play the Nuggets starting center for 3K or 33 if Sarge end up starting. Like if Sarge starts 33, Njai and DeAndre Jordan are both 3K. So I would say you're right in tournaments, but ultimately nobody's going to play him because everyone's just going to play them.
So when you build your lineup tonight, you just plug in Saric and then you wait for the news to come out and then pivot to whomever is starting at center?
It's probably a fair thing because Saric, at least you won't get stuck if Saric is starting to where now you don't have $300 and you're like, oh.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So you got to plug Saric in and then pivot.
Probably. Yeah. Unless we get like absolute confirmation. Because again, just like being transparent, like DeAndre Jordan is the highest rostered player of the slate. It's like by far him and Grayson Allen, everyone else. I'm not saying he's not going to start, but they have 3 other options. I guess 4 if you factor in they could go small with Peyton Watson as their Michael Porter is a 6'10" small forward. He could shift to power forward if they so choose, because the Pelicans are running 6'7" Ingram / Trey Murphy at power forward, right? So whatever the case is,
say Towns gets ruled out. Would you rather play Jericho Sims at $3,100 if he starts, or one of the Nuggets?
Oh man, I can't do that. Another situation where I could see the Knicks going small, right?
Probably.
No Nick Claxton.
But like they would start Sims probably.
Start Sims. I would probably go with the Denver starter over whoever the Denver starter is over Sims.
Okay. All right, then let's get a lineup going. Are we going Saric and then building around him?
Yeah, let's just go Saric, and then we can just, if DeAndre Jordan is the option we want to go with, we could just either go Saric and then go to Jordan knowing we have enough money, or we just go to Jordan and make sure we leave 300 on the table.
I agree. Who's our number 1 spend up today?
The field says Trae Young.
Yeah.
Let's build backwards. Let's get Jamal Murray. Let's go with Jamal Murray for sure.
Okay.
Because I think LeBron is my.
Well, I figured that's where we were going to go with it, so that's why I was just kind of like I was almost leading you to a little bit to it here.
I would prefer to play LeBron if he's just going to be unowned and people are like just going to not play the guy who 3 straight triple doubles, then that's the guy. Grayson Allen.
That's
Christian, or Christian Brown, but I prefer
or Westbrook. I mean, would you have a?
If Westbrook were starting, then Man, it might even be Westbrook, just given.
I mean,
I'll say Tari, but Russ is looking better and better as the day has progressed.
Donovan Mitchell or Tyler Hero? The question we had earlier, because we have the money for it. Pick one.
Well, as it currently stands, I would tell you Tyler Hero because we don't know the status of Mobley.
Okay. This is what we got for an example lineup then.
And again, for those just tuning in or confused as why we're using Saric, we're just making sure that we had enough money to get if Saric is starting. Yeah, because the field thinks it's DeAndre Jordan, could very well be DeAndre Jordan, but Denver has multiple options that they could go to. So
Easton's a power forward only. I was like, if he was center, we could just play Easton there. But
yeah, he's small forward, power forward, I think.
Yeah, I meant like if he had, I thought it was sure he was power forward center.
Oh, okay.
Because then we could have like maybe played Strother if they just went total small ball at Peyton Watson, right? Like if they don't go one of those three centers, we're stuck, right? Like
that's true. No, it's for sure true. But like, so is the whole entire field.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I'll say, is there like a cheap center that we'd want to be able to like playing?
Jericho Sims.
Yeah, not really. All right. Well, we'll just stick with it. Murray, Dick, Matherin, James, Saric, Hero, Allen, and Easton. And again, we're waiting on the news for Denver. If it's Saric starting, we'll leave it. If it's not, we'll pivot to whatever cheaper center they have, God willing that we can't afford them. So that's what we got for an example lineup. We appreciate you all tuning in. Again, hit that like, that subscribe, that share button. James and I will be back for Monday. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Get us in that Discord, and we'll catch you later.